In this tutorial, we're going to create a image collage. It's just going to be a simple collage composed of one large image and two smaller ones. You know, typical kind of photo collage or image collage that you'll find. All right, so let's go ahead and open up the images that we want to use here. All right, let's bring those up. And let's maximize our views on these. Okay, so the image that I'm going to use for my background is going to be this one. It is 1920 by 1080 resolution already, you know, so to fill the entire screen. And so this is going to be our background image. So I'm going to rename it here. I'm going to put NASA BG for background. And then we will go into this image. We're going to right click it and we're going to select, we're going to edit, we're going to copy it. And then we're going to go back over to our main image and we're going to select edit and paste. All right, so we definitely don't want it to be that big. And we want to make this a new layer. So there we go. So now we've got it in a new layer. I should have just said paste it as a new layer, but you know, if you forget to do that, as long as that's a floating selection, you can select new layer down there and it'll capture it in a new layer. So let's go to our scale tool, and I'm going to hold down my control key so I maintain the aspect ratio on this image, because I'm wanting to put it up here in the upper right hand corner. Yeah, I think that's going to look pretty good right there. Yeah. Okay. So there's our second image in our image collage that we're going to create here. Now our, let's see. Now let's scale that one down a little bit more. I think I want to move it down toward the bottom here. All right, yeah, let's put that one down here. I think that's going to look better. All right, and then because the other image I want to be a little bit larger, this one here, which has got, you know, everything in the image. So let's go edit, copy, come back over to our main image, and this time we're going to go edit and we're going to go paste as new layer. There we go. That's better. Okay, let's move that up here and go to our scale tool again. And I'm going to hold down the control key so that I maintain the aspect ratio, select scale, grab our move tool again. Let's move it up here. Yeah, I like that better. I like this because it's got so much in this image. I would rather it be our second largest image, and with just one object in this image, I would rather it be the smaller of the three. So I think that looks, I think as far as a collage or a composition on images for the NASA lander and rover and helicopter mission here, I think that makes a very good collage of that. All right, and in the show notes, I've got links to all three of these NASA images, so if you want to follow along in the tutorial. Okay, so what I would like to do with this collage, with these images, is I would like to maybe put a little drop shadow behind them, you know, give it a little depth from these images. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and let me see which image is that. Okay, so that's my bottom image down there. I'm going to duplicate that layer, and then I'm going to select the one that I'm going to use as a shadow. Shadow. All right, and then I'm going to hide the top image so I don't confuse the two. All right, and so I know that this is a reference image, it's a different way of creating drop shadows, but since I wanted to be able to look at this image and know right away that this is my reference image for my drop shadow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into colors and I'm going to go into desaturate and select desaturate. so that it is a grayscale version of that image. That way, visually I know right away that this is my reference image for my drop shadow. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because I don't want to, in case I want to do something different with the primary image, rather than use a filter on the primary image, I'm using it on a copy of the image. So if later on I decide, I don't want a shadow, or maybe I want to offset the shadow in a different way, or modify it in some way, it will enable me to get rid of the shadow without having to remove any additional filters that I might have applied. All right, so now that we've got that done, let's go ahead and go into our filters, and we're going to go into light and shadow. We're going to go into drop shadow, and I think I'm going to set my blur radius for about 8, and my opacity, and that looks pretty good. Let's set the opacity at about 0.9. That's good. Okay, so go ahead and select apply to that, and now if we go and we make our top image visible again, now you can see that our image is visible again. It has a nice drop shadow underneath it, and if I want to remove that drop shadow, all I have to do is hide it, and the drop shadow is gone. Or I can delete that layer if I decide I don't want it later on. Okay, so now let's go up to our second largest image, our overlay here, and we're going to make a duplicate of it, and then we're going to go down here and we're going to reference this one as shadow, same way we did with the other one. I'm going to hide the top image, the primary image, and then I'm going to go into colors, and I'm going to go into desaturate, and I'm going to desaturate that one. And then I'm going to go into my filters again and go to light and shadow and drop shadow, and I think I had it at around 0.9, right? Yeah, 0.9. Okay, so we're going to select OK on that, and then we can go back to our primary image, and now it has a very nice drop shadow. So this is a quick and easy way to make image compositions or an image collage. This is just one example. There are so many different ways to make an image collage. So one other way that we could present this is having the photos behind our main image and creating shadows from above instead of below the images. So let's do that. Let's try that. Let's go ahead and hide our existing shadows here. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my original image right here that we're using for our full size image, and I'm going to duplicate that. And then I'm going to rename this as matte. It's going to be my matte that goes over top of the images. Okay, and then I'm going to move it up to the top, and I'm going to hide the one on the bottom, and then I'm going to remove or lower the opacity so that I can see the images below it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here, I'm going to grab my rectangle select tool, and I'm going to go just inside the border of that image, and I'm going to pull it down, and then I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to do the same thing for this image down here. I'm going to come just inside its borders, select it, and then delete that. All right, now that I have that done, I can bring my opacity back up, and as you can see, now we can, let me unselect everything. Now that we can see everything below it, the two images below it where we've cut out that section of our matte. Okay, so now to give it that matte effect, now we've got those cutouts, I'm going to grab that image and I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm going to call this copy shadow, and I'm going to call it shadow top. And then I'm going to make a duplicate of that, and then I'm going to, it'd help if I knew how to spell here. let me fix my error. All right, shadow top. And then this one we're going to call shadow bottom. All right, so we've got those done. And I'm going to bring this one back up to the top, and I'm going to hide it for a second. Okay. And then I'm going to select my top one. I'm going to go in, I'm going to select filters. I'm going to say light and shadow and drop shadow. And as you can see, it's casting the shadow on top of the image, like the matte is setting above it, which it actually is, but to give it more of a realistic look. So let's turn our blur radius back down to 8, or around 8. And let's decrease the level of shadow a little bit. We don't want it, too, the shadow too much of it, because, a real matte would cast a pretty thin shadow. So let's put that down around 10, I think. Yeah, I think that'll look good. All right, and then let's set that to 0.9. Yeah, I like that a lot. Let's try 0.8. That's a little more subtle. Let's go with 0.8. Okay, so I'm going to select OK. Remember your settings here. It's 10, 8, and 0.8. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the bottom shadow, and I'm going to do the same thing, but we're going to shift the shadow up from the bottom rather than from the top down, from the bottom up. So we're going to go into filters, we're going to go into light and shadow, we're going to go into drop shadow, and I think we were, 10? We're going to put -10, or actually maybe more than that. Let's see. 8.8, and let's see here. Yeah, I think that's what we need. We need -10. All right, so now we have a shadow all the way around it. We've applied a shadow to every one of our borders, top, bottom, side, left side, right side, so that now you've got a shadow relief, as though the images are, not only are they digitally below our image that we're using as our matte, but visually you have depth now that shows it. So you can do some really cool things with photo collages in the GIMP. I just wanted to give you a couple of examples of that, and I think that looks really good. If you're wanting to print this and frame it as a NASA poster, as a NASA Mars mission poster. So I think that looks really good. All right, stay tuned, and we'll look at some other ways in creating photo collages in the future. That's a wrap on this episode, and I will see you in the next episode.